Hello, welcome to the next episode of... We don't have a title for this podcast yet.
Lee and Jamie's movie reviews. I don't know.
That sounds so cool.
We'll have to come up with a name for it. So what are we talking about today, Jamie? The Lighthouse and Parasite. The two movies that have been sweeping the Oscars at the moment. Parasite winning 4 Oscars for Best Picture, Best International Film, what are the other 2 categories? Best Screenplay, Best Director?
Yeah, those two. Those 4 categories.
And then The Lighthouse was nominated for
Best Cinematography, and that's it.
But sadly didn't win anything.
Did not win anything. It was beat by 1917 and it's one take over kerfuffle magic. I wasn't impressed by 1917, long story short.
Well, I know, because we came out of Parasite. I've seen it twice, you've seen it once so far. And then you said, you rate 1917 at the bottom of the list of all the films that are nominated.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd probably rate it a bit higher than that.
1917 is once it's done and you've watched it, it's very unrewatchable. Like, I wouldn't want to watch 1917 again because even though the one take thing doesn't add any real feeling to it, it's just, there is the point where somebody said to me, like, it questions the loyalty and actions of soldiers, that they keep following orders, and that's how it goes. That's how it's always been in the military. People question the orders or they get disciplined.
Right, and I feel like there's not that much you can really do with war films. It's like with Dunkirk. I mean, Dunkirk and this film both had something unique to offer in terms of spectacle, but in terms of the storylines that can be set during the First World War, the Second World War, whatever, it feels like it's quite limiting in terms of what you can really say.
Yeah, I saw Dunkirk twice and I feel like I could watch that again. 1917 there wasn't anything really subtle, like very small. Like the thing that people notice the most, they go, oh my gosh,
there's small nuances with the characters. I mean, they had a little bit of character development with the 2 leads.
Yeah, the 2 leads.
Like as they're walking from A to B or A to Z, we find out a little bit about them.
Shall we say spoilers?
This is a spoiler review. All our reviews are basically spoiler reviews at this point.
Yeah, the problem with the movie is how much stuff was shown in trailers and everything else. So when you see him running and it's like, where's his mate? Oh wait, his mate is dead. Which is going to be quite obvious that his mate gets killed really quickly.
Well, when the camera pans away, he's dealing with the German.
He's
just pulled out of the plane. He's gone to get water, turned back, and he's been stabbed.
But the problem is, you also see that plane part in the trailer.
So I guess you can kind of piece together which sequence goes where. So yeah, it's very linear, but I think that's what it was trying to be, So what would you say then in relation to Parasite?
So it deserves all the praise Parasite gets. Like last year, obviously the Oscars picked a movie that I wouldn't really consider Best Picture.
Yeah, Green Book.
Green Book is not that great of a movie. It's fine, but it's not Best Picture.
No, and there's always a fear that they'll choose a film that's foreign or showcases some kind of identity politics that they want to highlight. And that could have easily been the case with Parasite, but then when you watch it, you realise that no, it actually is the best film. So, I don't have a problem with that. Broadly speaking, there's nothing wrong with diversity in movies. I think it's a good thing, but I'm glad they just thought about choosing a film that had the best writing, because at the end of the day, it's not as important as a spectacle.
Yeah.
1917 being an example of that. Like, spectacle was, amazing in the film, obviously. The cinematography, following the characters for the whole movie, it was great to watch. But in terms of an actual narrative, when you mentioned before about films giving you like a roller coaster of emotions, and that normally applies to Marvel movies or DC movies. And we talked about how they're not always successful at doing that, but with this film, the first half was much more light-hearted and the second half was much darker, and I think the film managed to communicate all of its emotions really well. Well, there's a point in the movie where the family are like drinking when the Park family's gone out on a camping trip, and it's raining outside, and suddenly there's a lightning strike, and then shortly after that the phone rings and the other housekeeper shows up to go down to the basement for the first time, and that's the point in the film where the tone just shifts. But in spite of that, it doesn't feel out of place. Nothing feels like it doesn't belong there, despite going through all of these different tonal shifts and genres. So in that respect, I'd say it succeeds in being a roller coaster of emotions. So what would you say then in relation to The Lighthouse?
The Lighthouse was my new favourite film of all time. Like,
Really? That's what it was that we discussed, like The Lighthouse and Parasite. The identity is kind of a theme, identity and
it's the common theme they both have.
Yeah.
About impersonating people, like trying to find a better life for themselves.
Yeah.
Because obviously, at one point in the movie, Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe's character are drunk, and goes like, "My name is Thomas," actually, because he tells him a different name.
Yeah, and of course, Defoe's character is also named Thomas.
Yeah, Thomas and Thomas. Robert Pattinson lets somebody else die, who's named Thomas, so he impersonates that person to try and seek himself a better life.
Yeah.
Which in Parasite they do as well, where they're lying to this family to seek a better life.
And I think the theme of class, the division of class is much more evident in that film, because you can see both sides. The Lighthouse just depicts a more grim version of reality where neither of them look like they're particularly wealthy.
No.
But
that one is so invested in his work that he has literally become crazy over time. Willem Dafoe's character, I think, from the very start of the movie is crazy, because he has an obsession with the light.
Yeah.
Doesn't allow anybody else to go up there.
Yeah.
At all.
And then any other lighthouse, you know, the younger lighthouse keeper would earn his right to go up there and find out what's happening. But even after the 4 weeks they've been there, before they get stranded, he casually just asks if he can go up there while they're drunk, and Defoe just casually says no, you can't. If he wasn't drunk, he'd probably get quite angry about it, because he's already asked him so many times.
Yeah.
So it is a big secret. But like we said, with their names being the same, I think one of the things Eggers was trying to do was make you question like who is the same one, who's more mad. Because at points towards the end of the film, Robert Pattinson's character starts to become questionably more insane than Defoe's character.
Yeah,
because he starts off as the quiet one, and then as we get to know him a little bit more, you realise he's not all there himself, really.
Yeah, the same thing happens in Parasite with the father character, that there's a point when they mention the smell of them, that he just kind of snaps and murders the father of the rich family just because of, well, obviously we're skipping a bit of the film, but part of the movie, the guy who's been living in the basement switching all the lights on and stuff for the family.
The Moscow, yeah.
Yeah. He gets stabbed and obviously has the keys underneath him, but because of the smell of him, the rich father character covers his nose, and that triggers the poor father character to stab him.
Yeah, which was something that was established earlier on in the film. As I said, when he comments on it, the smell of not just him but this whole family, and that speaks to, you know, the poorer class in general. A lot of people, I read a few reviews that question why like he would stab Mr. Park at the end, or based on what's happened before, is that something he would actually do? Some people questioned it, but I think it does make sense.
Yeah, like it doesn't need to be a build-up of a trigger, it could be one moment and he could be triggered by that. And
yeah, and I mean, bear in mind he's lived that way his whole life, presumably. He's always been poor, so these are probably buried emotions that haven't really surfaced until this particular thing at the end, when his daughter was killed, when all these circumstances took place towards the end. That's what triggered him to bring forth his true feelings towards, you know, the wealthy class. Yeah, what were you saying about Letterboxd, Jamie? Because obviously you review all your movies on Letterboxd, so I think one of the things we should probably do is leave a link in the description, so you guys can check out our reviews on The Lighthouse and Parasite. Well, we keep talking about films we're going to do, like we're thinking maybe of doing Necromantic and what's the other one? Nymphomaniac.
Nymphomaniacs.
Yeah,
Nymphomaniac.
both of them have 2 parts. So doing one podcast that will be dedicated to part 1 to both films, one to part 2 on both films. So that's 2 podcasts right there. But for whatever reason, we just haven't got around to it.
We'll hopefully do an episode where we go through all the Best Picture nominees and talk a bit about them. Yeah,
well, we could do a, I don't know, well, you follow Red Letter Media, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, they have they have Best of the Worst, and then they have a catch-up video that they do like every 6 months.
Yeah.
Well, they review movies from the first half and then the second half of the year. if we wanted to just talk briefly about movies that we have missed, you know, the ones that we've just mentioned, for example, that we haven't reviewed yet, and if we don't get to review them, maybe we can just talk for 20 seconds about each movie in a catch-up video or something.
I would like to get a graphic designer, God Machine, to maybe come along if he'll agree to it. He did the artwork for the Arrow Media release of
Necromaniac
1.
Yeah, but no, it'd be nice to have him come down. I said we haven't had a guest on our show yet, so
yeah,
you know,
do you know any people that were worthwhile coming along?
Well, we both know someone called Adam Kane, but I don't think we're going to be inviting him. But speaking of that, there's some people that he podcasted with who are more than prepared to talk about movies. They could come along.
Yeah.
Some people from our cinema who we work with, who I'm sure would be happy to podcast with us.
So thank you for listening to our episode, which was going to be about The Lighthouse and Parasite.
Ended up also being about 1917 because we just had to talk about it. So see you later. Bye.